to his friends or watchers and turns off his microphone. Prior to the explosion, I inquired as to whether there was any activity. So that our daughter wouldn't equate his mistakes with wrath, I made an effort to reply softly whenever he messed up. In order to rule out any medical issues, I suggested that he make an appointment with a doctor. He insisted I was exaggerating things, that mistakes are inevitable. Despite repeated instances of the same errors, they failed to notice a problem. My attempts to convey to him the gravity of the situation, namely, the mounting costs of his carelessness, were met with his dismissal, as if we were unable to pay. Even though he has my undying love, I long for the man he was before we became parents. My reliable and trustworthy one. Am I permanently ruining this? Were my criticisms of his shortcomings overly severe? Has something slipped my mind? Am I the one who's bad? Oops, her hubby may be spending her money. Comments. Oops, my vote was de-emphasized. I believe he is spending his own money, even though we have a joint account for bills and household costs. I made it a point to ensure he never felt financially confined or exploited when he became a stay-at-home husband. The idea of my spouse needing to discreetly seek for money or permission to buy goods for himself, or for gifts, was also overwhelming to me. Expenses and savings both get a portion of my paycheck. Put $300 into 2 anonymous accounts and put the rest into savings. I think he should be free to do with his money what he wants with it. The allocation to his account has been deleted after I reviewed all of the responses. For the bills/costs account, I also deactivated his authorization. Since he was in charge of the housework and upkeep before our daughter was born, this did appear to be the fairest. Since the arrangement is now unfair and unequal, I can see why everyone is angry with me. My name is completely absent from the account, hence I am unable to deactivate his card. Unfortunately, I've canceled this week's deposits, and will not be accepting any more. Oh no, she has no idea what her spouse was doing before the birth of their baby. Additionally, he was making contributions after our baby was born, and I appreciated them. Every day he cleaned up after us by washing dishes, wiping off counters, and scooping cat litter. He also prepared most of our meals. He would handle one-offs during the week, but we did buy groceries and run errands together once a week. Along with some scrambled eggs and coffee in bed, he helped me get a jump start for the purpose of taking my heart medicine. Getting through the laundry and hanging things up never required me to run the machine or even contemplate using more pain medication. Except for breakfast, he still primarily does these. Sometimes the dishes go unwashed overnight because of his streaming, but I also think it's because our toddler likes to eat her food in individual little bowls, and our dishwasher can only hold so many of those IKEA kids bowls. On a daily basis, he takes care of the dishes, scoops cat litter, wipes counters, takes out the garbage, cleans up messes that happen, does laundry, and tends to the yard. To avoid the problem of cleaning being put off, we hire a cleaner once a week. We'll be away from home for a few days due to illness, doctor appointments, visiting relatives, going on adventures in the neighborhood, etc. Never becomes a AOMG. I have so much to catch up on moment. In the past, that has always been a challenge for me. As for the monthly deep cleaning, it's genuinely pleasant to have a professional take care of everything. The expert organizer, who also happens to be our monthly deep cleaning, has been a lifesaver when it comes to arranging our little one's clothes and toys for the change from baby to toddler. Remark on the attributes of her spouse. We used to have a blast collaborating on projects because he's so imaginative. A contemporary MacGyver he is. He can construct stunning set elements that could pass for Broadway props with just a roll of duct tape, 2 pennies, some foam, cardboard, and paint. With the help of a flower pot and some improvised lathe, he constructed a miniature forge. In preparation for his proposal, he worked on making the ring himself. Finished with blue opal, my ideal gemstone. He has the best terrible jokes and puns, and his smile is contagious. He created his own recipe book out of note cards and enrolled in cooking classes so he could replicate my favorite meals. He freely sings a wide variety of musical styles, including those of Nightwish, Aqua, The Backstreet Boys, Broadway show tunes, and more. Playfully off-key, as if nobody else is listening. Even before the first note has sounded, he will be dancing to a Michael Jackson song. I skipped the hospital meals for my first meal after giving birth to our baby. He'd struck a deal with the proprietor of the eatery where I often indulge. Whenever I went into labor, he would immediately contact the owner of the restaurant, have my favorite dishes made, and bring them to the hospital in his own car. Prior to its arrival and the aroma reaching my nose, I was unaware. The food I ate was the result of my many happy tears. In general, frogs are quite cute. Every frog he found in our yard would be photographed by him. He made a sign for our home that features our 2 favorite animals, a welcome home, and had it vacuum formed. He would either bring home adorable frog-themed items or send me pictures of them when he went out. He would bring me food when my suffering was so acute that I could do nothing but lie in bed and perish. On a tray he fashioned from wood. can be used as both a bed tray and a carry tray. It was the hospital meal trays that inspired him. On the few occasions that I am unable to accomplish it alone, he assists me in donning my footwear and socks. To make me feel more attractive, he taught me how to curl and flatten my hair and a couple different types of updos. When I'm feeling down about my aching body, he'll put my hair in a cute bun and it instantly lifts my spirits. I went head over heels for that individual. I miss it so much. He gets to be that guy sometimes. But these days, Hess isn't the only one. I apologize for the delay in providing an update. To all those who sent messages, comments, and recommendations, thank you from the bottom of my heart. A week has passed. I will address some questions that have been asked before I get to the update. The real update is 8 paragraphs ahead of where you are now. 1. Tell me why my hubby is unemployed. He had no trouble finding work. But we both agreed that, barring the possibility of starting his own business, which he obviously did not want to do, the income would never be enough to escape the poisonous atmosphere of his industry. He was an expert in home improvement and repair. The way his colleagues discussed female clients, co-workers, and entreated women was disgusting. His witnessing of sexual harassment and its subsequent resignation of numerous female co-workers deeply troubled him. The feeling of disgust he had whenever salespeople or adjusters took advantage of women was something he detested. It is possible to charge more for services that are of lower quality or aren't needed. His hours would be reduced till he resigned if he spoke up. Right after starting a new job, he quit because his employer had a screamy voicemail demanding that he sell refrigerant to a young black couple who clearly didn't need it. He did report numerous employers to the state labor board and has the necessary paperwork. And come back later. As far as we are aware, nothing was ever done. After quitting the trades, he worked in a warehouse and a factory. He was severely punished by both of them because he needed my medically scheduled time off. Until one is eligible for FMLA, which takes a year, there is no worker protection for any of that. Yes, the ability to politely resign from a paying job is an honor. I can relate nevertheless. I am content with my current situation because it is not poisonous at all. I'm doing great, and our company's policy on unlimited paid sick and medical leave is hard won by management at all levels. No manager worth their salt will ever reprimand employees for taking time off. Quite the remarkable business. Having a child makes it so that he can't work until I leave my job, or our child is old enough to not require constant supervision, unless we find another unicorn employer who won't penalize him for taking time off to care for me, or our daughter, like after he broke my car, left the front door open, and streamed all day while I took care of our daughter and everything else. I became handicapped and accused my husband of being a liability. For the past 8 years, my spouse, 37-year-old Nathan, and I have been together. No matter how little the task, I have never trusted Nathan again once our daughter, 3F, was born. In the background, when I was 19 years old, my automobile was crushed to bits when a semi-truck driver dozed off and crushed me to death. Good days and bad days are physically impaired for me, and the amount of metal holding me together makes me glow like a Christmas tree to the TSA. A part of my settlement money went toward purchasing a home outright, so that I can have it modified to meet my requirements, such as a wheelchair accessibility. I enjoy my job in software development since it's with such high expectations I certainly wouldn't want them placed on myself. My spouse would have a hard time finding time to help out around the house if he took on all of the daycare's extracurricular activities and field trips. Deferred cleaning paralysis can be avoided with the help of the weekly housekeeper. When little things that were overlooked add up to big, overwhelming chores, and you don't know where to begin. Having a baby and adjusting to life with a toddler have been a whirlwind of self-care, but the monthly deep clean and organizing have been our rock. I forgot to mention that when our daughter turned 3, she began attending the part-time daycare. The weekly housekeeping was especially useful before that, because my partner had been the main caregiver, so things were less likely to slip into chaos. 4. Something about allowances. Yes, it was important to me that my spouse be able to support himself financially in the event that he lost his job. I don't know how long I've spent on social media, but I've read countless accounts of women and other non-working spouses who have been victims of financial abuse or who were unable to leave abusive relationships due to a lack of private savings. Would it have been better if I had intervened sooner when our dynamic got out of hand? Yes, that is mine to possess. 5. The house and settlement money are in a trust, which is totally independent from Slash, and as far as my lawyer can determine, he won't be able to access it after our divorce. I have all the paperwork showing that his licenses and certifications have not expired, and I have ongoing medical expenses, so there's a significant likelihood that he won't have to pay alimony. With any luck, that should cover most of the inquiries about the background. On Friday, as I was wrapping up my work, the aroma of cooking meals greeted me. I got out of my office just as my husband was setting the table for supper. He expressed his want to have a conversation while having my dinner. I did, in fact, peruse the Reddit user comments. Just because I know he can see it doesn't mean I'll erase or alter my description of him. His reaction was indescribable, but he did say that he had spent the previous day considering how terrible it was that so many medical diagnosis possibilities were offered as reasons and explanations. Although he did declare he doesn't have ADHD. Here we go anyhow. When he was a kid, his mom sought to get him labeled with ADHD from a number of doctors while she was hooked to Ritalin and narcotics. Even as an adult, he sought out second viewpoints, just as she had him believe he was. Her addiction was a secret until he was in his mid-20s. After realizing his mom was trying to manipulate him for medications, he did seek therapy, even though he still doesn't believe he has autism or ADHD. He has expressed a willingness to visit a psychiatrist once again. A possibility of depression does cross his mind, though. If he doesn't think I'm depressed, he'll inquire about other medical ideas to help me relax or rule out serious issues. Something he said is still weighing on my mind, even though he seemed sincere in this. As soon as he noticed the pain in my eyes, he quickly apologized and expressed it in a playful manner. He knew our life together would be anything but ordinary, yet he still chose to love and marry a medically fragile woman nevertheless. Surely those who believe something is wrong with his brain must be onto something. On the same night when he left the door ajar, the pot simmered, our child's beloved meal spoiled, and he chugged a bit too much from his stream, he did confess. I would keep a closer eye on that. He claimed that he had been secretly staying sober for the past few nights by filling his wine bottle with grape juice to give the impression that he was a cheerful drinking Viking. He promised to keep doing it. He took me to see the new Deadpool film as a surprise after supper. He researched the theater's limited edition popcorn buckets, so we skipped our usual cinema. I now possess the infant Deadpool figure that cradles a snack and a beverage. The next day, we reflected on how drastically our family dynamic had shifted for the worse. Everything adds up, even the little things. My perspective on how an apology might include transformation. I don't care how many times you say you're sorry if you keep doing the same thing. And the fact that he was oblivious to how often he was making the same or comparable gaffes. On Sunday, we discussed both immediate and far future plans. Immediate action required he must take responsibility of making his own medical appointment schedules. Timelines for expectations. Taking care of stuff he damaged won't be charged to our account anymore, he acknowledged that. He intends to deduct the amount from his stipend, concerning which we had previously spoken. I went ahead and enabled deposits again, but only up to $50 every paycheck. He proposed that we maintain it that way until he has recouped the expenses for the automobile and garage repairs that occurred earlier this year. The cost of damaging the engine of my last vehicle will take him a long time to rectify, he said, but he will stand up and find a way to make it right. Yes. There are warning signs. Using love bombs. Despite our repeated discussions, we still do not know how often. Misunderstanding that continuing to perform the same problematic act without offering an apology is the same as never apologizing and believing that verbal apologies are the last stage in the apology process. Indeed, I am aware that he will peruse this. Am I seriously believing that we have overcome this obstacle and will be a happily married pair until death does us part? Not at all. No insult to the husband, but is this a possible answer at this time? Very possibly. On the other hand, my husband is well aware of the fact that he is behind schedule, has a lot of things to solve, and needs to make up for a lot. And that our daughter will learn from this experience that love alone isn't enough, that genuine accountability can turn a ship around, or that doing the right thing is important regardless of the outcome. He did read the post, so now you can decipher my true meaning. In case it isn't clear, the final 4 words of the preceding 4 paragraphs. Comments. Sure, I'm prepared to rumble. Your medical demands have affected his capacity to work, which is a real joke. Neither of you seems interested in being a partner, and your views on alimony and money are completely different, so I hope he protects his own financial interests. My attempt at becoming a partner has failed. It's why I'm there to provide a hand and cover the costs of cleaning, part-time daycare, and the summer camp that I'm presently attending. Also make sure he has enough of his own money to do what he wants with it. If we were no longer together, he wouldn't have a need for a unicorn job with unpenalized PTO, and my medical requirements would affect his capacity to work, which would weaken his case for alimony. Would it be okay if I helped him land somewhat softly? Very probably. It seems less likely that a judge would obligate it based on what I've heard. Her inability to stand up for herself and have productive conversations with her husband is a major problem. Oh no, I really need a new spine because the one I have is held together by a combination of duct tape, screws, corrosion, and vibes. I am fully aware that he will most certainly be terrified in the next month, if that transformation is to be temporary and refreshing. Apologies for the past mistreatment you received. But you are completely incorrect in presuming that my want to confirm that my husband is actually choosing to suck his proof indicates my intention to maintain this lifestyle. After only 1 week, your 2 posts have amassed more followers than all of his streaming garbage put together. Oh Luluk, I was going to say something else, but I really can't believe he was unable to retain employment due to the poisonous work environment. However, you are correct. Unfortunately, the bit about the hazardous work environment is spot on. I reviewed the paperwork he filed with the labor board detailing his findings. Things were going swimmingly between us as a house husband until things went wrong. His waste of it saddened him. Unless my industry has a precipitous decline in salary, I will be able to retire comfortably in a few years. Flexible, and allows me to work from home when I'm sick. It has been 5 years since my husband last had a job. That was perfect up until the birth of our daughter. I appreciated having him here with me because of the settlement money, the paid-off house, and my salary. He helped out by taking care of the housework. So that we may spend more time together, we pay for a cleaner to come once a week in addition to monthly deep cleaning. It was as if a switch was flipped off in his brain the moment our baby was born. He had a habit of getting our daughter diapers that were too big. Unevenly blended bottles. Turn diapers inside out. Refrain from using wipes that may be covered in excrement. Close cabinets without thinking. He has returned from 3 separate trips to the store this week carrying shoes and socks that are the wrong size for her. In the end, all I did was place an Amazon purchase for the correct ones. On my behalf, he has attempted to assist me in filling up my weekly pill organizer, only to let the contents of new pills flow out onto the floor on multiple occasions. Next, he failed to see that he had dropped several of them. Even though it's a big no, he keeps bringing me grapefruit juice to take my meds with. He keeps adding milk to my coffee despite my intolerance to dairy. On the other hand, melted cheese on a burger. Because he was careless, he broke a lot of my possessions. My laptop fell out of his grasp as he attempted to pack it for a trip, and he shattered it, even though I had already promised to bring my own electronics. So many cutlery items have gone into the drain. He over-torqued the engine bolt while attempting to replace my car's head gasket, shattering it and rendering it unfixable according to 2 separate repair shops. The cost of a replacement engine was $11,000, so we decided to purchase a new vehicle instead. He assumed he was going to use the brakes instead of the accelerator, and a week later he slammed the new automobile into the garage door. For fun, he considered streaming and TikToks. At first I was on his side. Still, a pattern emerged for me in no time. He acted irresponsibly and sloppily whenever it came to our daughter or me. Nothing he does ever gets whoopsed. Leaving the garage and his thoughts behind, he would construct full sets to use for streaming or making movies. There was a climax 4 nights ago. He live-streamed himself constructing a brand new set piece. Continually for 9 hours. At the same time, I worked, got our daughter ready for bed, cooked and fed us, and clocked out early to pick her up from summer camp. He joined her in putting her to bed. I informed him that I would be in my office for a while to get some work done. Additionally, I requested that he remove the rubbish. I will, he says. It was 2 hours after that. The house was quite toasty when I stepped out of my office. Even though he took out the garbage, he left our front door ajar. And he returned to the garage, cranking up the volume on his game. Thankfully, our kid was fast sleeping. But I freaked out because she can get out of bed. However, she could have walked out of the house unnoticed if she had wanted to. Next thing I knew, a burner on the stove was lit. On top of it sits a little pot that is empty. That night I refrained from using the stovetop to prepare food. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up, so I peeked my head into the garage. He said, I thought I locked it after I told him about the door problem. He did not, according to our camera inspection. He explained that he had intended to prepare ramen but had forgotten, and that's why the burner is on. He removed the pot from the heat and placed it directly into the sink, placing it on top of our daughter's beloved plastic plate. Unfortunately, it is now in a desolate state. I was angry and shouted, "What are you doing, I'll confess." After realizing his mistake, he removed the pot from our daughter's plate, and then onto the kitchen table. In order to reduce its temperature, I swiftly seize it and run it under water. Tonight isn't going to work for me, I confess to him. He is too much for me to handle. I'm preparing to go to sleep by taking my medication. A cup is taken from the cabinet by him. Drops it directly onto the hot burner. I have reached my breaking point. I burst into tears. Everything was all right with him. He insisted accidents happen. He's had a difficult day streaming, and he's simply exhausted. For crying out loud, it's only a cup. It is reusable. He asked. What the fuck does that mean in response to my irate response that I am a burden, and not a partner? I let out a scream, explaining that it's because I have no faith in him. I feel like I have to keep an infantile eye on him at all times. Having to pay the price for his own faults again and time again. I seem to be the one getting messed over every time I let my guard down and assume he's an adult. I went on to say that I no longer see us working together as a team. You are nothing more than an additional expense on my books." With a thud, he retreated to his bedroom from the kitchen. I contacted my mother and informed her of the situation. She suggested taking our daughter for a week so we could figure things out in private, but she thinks it's simply stress. To label my spouse a liability, she claims, was an incredibly offensive thing to say. It was first thing in the morning when I promised to watch our daughter for a week and informed my husband that my mom would be picking her up from summer camp. "Okay," he replied, and that was our last conversation. All day long, he and his friends play games, make tic-tac-toe, and stream meals in the garage. He has taken to having door-to-garage deliveries made by DoorDash. He still won't even come near me, even after days of this. He has simply put me on red after I messaged him asking if we can chat or find a solution. Whenever I sneak into the garage, he pays me no mind. However, as soon as the ruckus ceases, he apologizes. When daycare was closed for a week because of an RSV outbreak. Finally, this dynamic is exacerbated by the fact that my job compensation is nearly twice his best wage, despite the fact that I am disabled, with no reduction in income for needing time off. Changing the working partner won't be financially beneficial for us. 2. Does streaming TikTok bring in a lot of money for my husband? No. 6 people watch his lives on average. As for his Twitch, he has 3 followers. Even though he claimed to have received $6 in TikTok live presents, he failed to receive a $1,099 when we filed our taxes. Twitch has yet to remark. Compared to the end of last year, his audience counts are relatively unchanged. 3. Our daughter attends daycare and summer camp, so why do we still pay a maid to come in once a week? I despise the arrangement when one partner works a 40-hour job and the other takes care of the home, children, care, enrichment, and socialization all at the same time, and basically being available at all times. I can't imagine burdening someone I care about.